My 7-year-old son once whispered something that changed my life forever. He said, "Mom, Dad has a girlfriend, and when you go on your trip, he's going to take all your money." Those words froze me more than any alarm ever could. Before we continue, if you haven't subscribed yet, do so to stay up to date with the most shocking and real stories happening around you. My name is Emily Rhodes. I was 38 then, living in a quiet suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina. From the outside, everything about my life looked calm and successful. I was a senior financial consultant for a firm that worked with international clients. My husband Derek was charming, confident, and known for his easy smile. And our son Noah was the light of my world, curious, kind, and wise beyond his years. That night I was in my bedroom, packing for a 2-day business trip to New York. My laptop glowed on the desk, while the sound of Noah's small puzzle pieces clicked. In the next room, he had been quieter than usual lately. I assumed he was sad about me leaving when I finished folding a white blouse. I called out, "Remember, honey, you'll be with Daddy for 2 nights, okay?" There was no answer, just the faint sound of him shifting on the carpet. Later, when I tucked him in, Noah didn't let go of me. He lay there, his little head resting on my chest, silent for a long time. The air was soft, peaceful. Then he said it. "Mom," he whispered, "Daddy has a girlfriend." At first I laughed a little, thinking it was a misunderstanding, but then his next words hit harder. He told her that when you go on your trip, they'll go to the bank. He said, "They'll do something with the money." I felt my breath catch. "What did you hear exactly?" I asked, trying to sound calm. Noah said he told the lady they'd have 3 days to get everything done. He yawned, as if unaware that he had just shattered something inside me after he fell asleep. I sat by his bed, frozen. My mind raced between disbelief and fear. Was it possible that Derek, my husband, my partner, was planning something behind my back? I tried to reason with myself, but the tone in my son's voice still echoed in my head, a warning so pure and innocent that it couldn't be ignored. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark, listening to the ticking of the clock, realizing that sometimes the truth doesn't arrive in anger or thunder. It arrives in a whisper from a child who doesn't yet know. The weight of what he's saying. By 3 in the morning I was still awake. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had gone cold. The steam long vanished, but my thoughts boiling over, the words of my son, replayed again and again in my head. Something inside me refused to dismiss them. As a child's imagination, I opened my laptop and started searching through old emails. Weeks earlier, Derek had asked me to sign some documents while I was recovering from surgery. He'd brought them to my bedside, kissed my forehead, and said, "It's just an update to our insurance, baby. Nothing serious." I had been weak and groggy then, barely able to hold a pen. I trusted him completely. Scrolling through the files, I found the one that changed everything. The title read, "General Power of Attorney. Full Authority. My stomach dropped. I opened it, and the legal text confirmed my worst fear. I had unknowingly given Derek full control over my assets. He could sign documents, sell property, and move money on my behalf. And all it would take was his signature and a single claim that I was unavailable. The more I read, the sicker I felt. How could I have been so careless? But it wasn't carelessness. It was trust, and he had turned that trust into a weapon. By dawn, the city outside was waking up. Birds chirped, cars started, people brewed coffee to face another normal day. But my day had already split into the life I thought I had, and the one I was just beginning to see. At 8:00 a.m., I made a call to someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Rachel Whitman, an old college friend turned attorney, when she answered. My voice shook. "Rachel? I think my husband is trying to steal from me." She asked me to come in right away. Her office was in a small brick building downtown, warm but serious. I handed her the printed documents. She read them silently, line by line, before looking up. "Emily, this isn't an insurance update. This is a full power of attorney. With this, he can do almost anything in your name. If he claims you're mentally unfit, are unreachable, he can move assets, close accounts, even sell your house." I felt my heart pounding in my ears, "and he can do it without me here." "Yes," she said softly. If you leave town, that's the perfect window. Rachel leaned forward. You need to act quietly. Don't confront him yet. First, we revoke this power of attorney immediately. Then you alert your bank and credit institutions to block any joint access. And third, start gathering evidence of intent. We'll need proof. I nodded, though my hands were trembling. Fear was still there, but something else was rising with it. Resolve I wasn't going to be the victim of my own signature. And if my husband was truly planning what I feared, I would expose him before he even realized I knew. The next morning the house looked perfectly ordinary. Sunlight on the curtains, the smell of coffee, the hum of the dishwasher. But beneath that calm, everything had changed. I watched Derek from across the kitchen island, studying every movement, as if I was seeing him for the first time. He smiled when he saw me. You look tired, he said casually. I barely slept, I replied, forcing a small laugh. He poured 2 cups of coffee and slid one toward me. When do you fly out again? Tuesday morning, right? Yes. Early flight, he nodded, stirring his cup with slow precision. Are you coming back Thursday or Friday? It was such an innocent question, too innocent, the kind that sounds casual but hides a clock behind it. I sipped my coffee and lied. Friday evening. Perfect, he said, and smiled. That smile, soft, confident, rehearsed, was the confirmation I didn't need but already knew. For the rest of the day he acted like a perfect husband. He cooked dinner, laughed at Noah's stories, even offered to help me pack. But every kind gesture felt scripted, like a performance designed to keep me calm, until I left. That afternoon, while Derek ran an errand, I drove to Rachel's office of N. She had brought another attorney into the case, a calm, sharp-eyed man named Philip Grant, a specialist in financial and domestic fraud. Philip read through the files, tapping a pen against his notepad. Your husband is in a powerful position, he said finally. With this document, he could transfer your property, drain your accounts, and even claim you're incapacitated. If he acts while you're away, it could take weeks to reverse. I clenched my hands in my lap. Then we stop him now. Philip nodded. We will, but we'll do it quietly. If he suspects anything, he'll rush his plan, we'll revoke his authorization, notify the bank, and monitor every move he makes, let him think everything's normal. When I got home that evening, Derek was waiting in the living room, 2 glasses of wine already poured. He smiled again. You're tense. Is it work? Yeah? I lied. Just work. He touched my shoulder gently. Relax, baby. Everything's going to be fine. But the way he said it sent chills down my spine. It wasn't reassurance, it was a promise. From someone who believed he'd already won. By Monday night, my decision was made. I was not flying anywhere. I was going to stay close. Hidden but close. Rachel and Philip had arranged everything. I would pretend to leave for my trip, while they watched Derek's every move. If he acted, we'd have proof. That evening, I packed a suitcase with nothing but old clothes and papers, enough to make the act believable. When Derek saw it by the door, he smiled satisfied. You're all set? Yes, I said lightly. Just need to check in for my flight. He nodded, taking a sip of wine, and I noticed how calm he was. Too calm, for someone who was supposedly losing sleep over work. The next morning, while he was still asleep, I drove to a small townhouse Rachel had rented for me under her firm's name. It was only a few miles away, but it felt like a different world. Quiet, discreet, and safe. Philip was already there setting up his laptop and connecting to the bank security system through legal channels. He had arranged access to the branch's public footage and set up a live monitor on my home's security cameras. Every angle, every motion, every time Derek's steppy. Ed outside, we would see it. Once he realizes you're gone, he'll move fast, Philip said. He'll think this is his window of opportunity and that's when we'll catch him. I replied. By noon I received the first text. Hey, sweetheart, did you board? I didn't reply. Another came 30 minutes later. Everything okay? Let me know when you land. He was checking to make sure I wasn't nearby. At 9:15 a.m., the next morning the footage lit up. Derek appeared on the bank camera wearing his grey suit and carrying a black folder under his arm. His stride was confident, like a man sure the world was on his side. Outside, a woman sat in a silver car. Her name was Chloe Sanders, the mistress, the partner in his crime. Philip adjusted the sound. We could hear bits of conversation through the bank's ambient microphone. Derek's voice was low, firm, almost polite. As the legal agent for Emily Rhodes, I'd like to access and liquidate the funds. From her personal account, the clerk checked the screen, frowned slightly and excused herself. Moments later, a branch manager walked over. "Sir, this authorization was revoked yesterday. Your access as a co-signer has been removed." What Derek snapped. "That's impossible. I'm sorry, sir. The system shows it clearly." He started raising his voice. "You don't understand. I have full authority." The manager calmly pressed a small button. Under the desk, security guards began to approach. Outside, Chloe stepped out of the car looking nervous. Through the glass door, we could see her pacing. "They said she revoked it," Derek hissed when he met her outside. "She can't be. She was supposed to be gone." Philip clicked. "Stop on the recording." "That's it," he said quietly. "We've got them." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. I didn't feel triumph, just a quiet, exhausted kind of grief. The man I once loved had just exposed himself completely, and the woman waiting for him outside was proof that betrayal rarely comes alone. The hours after the bank incident felt endless. I stayed in the safe house, staring at the muted video feed. DT. Rex's face when the manager told him the authorization was revoked replayed in my mind again and again. Shock, anger, and underneath it something darker, fear. By noon, my phone began to vibrate, non-stop. Calls, texts, voicemails. "Where are you? Why did you do this? We need to talk right now." I didn't answer a single one. Every message was another piece of evidence that would soon become part of the record. Philip sat across from me, typing notes on his laptop. "Let him talk himself into a hole," he said, "and whatever you do, don't show emotion. You're winning by staying silent." But it wasn't easy. Silence can be louder than screams when you love the person on the other end. Around 6 that evening, another call came in. An unknown number. Philip nodded toward the phone. "Answer it, we're recording." I took a deep breath and pressed the green button. "Hello?" I said softly. Emily Derek's voice came through, strained and tense. "We need to talk about what you know." What he said, his tone wavering between anger and desperation. "What happened this morning was insane. You made a huge mistake." "A mistake," I repeated. "You mean catching me trying to empty my accounts?" He sighed. "You're exaggerating. I was just managing our finances for us." "For us?" I asked quietly. "Or for you and Chloe?" There was silence for several seconds. Then his voice hardened. "She has nothing to do with this." "I have recordings that say otherwise," I replied. "And by the way, the bank has footage of you trying to pose as my agent. You really should have worn a different suit." He laughed bitterly. "You think you've won, huh? This isn't a game, Derek. You've always wanted to control everything, every decision, every dollar. Maybe I just wanted a life where I mattered, a life where you matter. Doesn't include stealing from your wife," I said evenly. "You signed those papers, you gave me power. I just used it. You used my trust," I corrected. "And that's something you'll never get back." In the corner of my eye, I saw movement. Noah had stepped quietly into the kitchen doorway. He was Listo. "Ning, Mom," he said softly. "Is that Dad?" I nodded and pulled him close. He pressed his small hand into mine, trembling. "Is he going to take me away?" "No, baby," I whispered. "He won't ever." On the line, Derek's tone turned cold. "Don't use him against me. I'm protecting him," I replied, "from you." There was a heavy pause, then he muttered, "You'll regret this," and hung up. Philip stopped the recording and exhaled. That, he said, was gold. Direct admission of intent, emotional manipulation, and coercion. We'll take this straight to the district attorney. I looked at my son, still clutching my hand. I forced a smile for him even as my heart ached, because I knew this wasn't over yet, but it was the first time I truly believed we might win. The courthouse in downtown Charlotte smelled faintly of paper coffee and nerves. It was early morning when I walked through its doors with Philip by my side. I had barely slept, but exhaustion had turned into something sharper focus. This was the day everything would finally come to light. We entered the small hearing room. The judge was an older man with grey hair and eyes that had seen too many lies. Across the table sat Derek and Chloe. He was in a dark suit, shoulders stiff. She wore sunglasses inside, pretending calm. They didn't look at me, not even once when the judge called the case. Philip rose first. "Your Honour, my client, Mrs. Emily Rhodes, was deceived into signing a broad power of attorney during a medical recovery period. Her husband then used that document to plan an unauthorised transfer of assets and intended to relocate her minor son without consent. We have direct evidence of intent, recorded conversations, and surveillance footage from the bank." The judge lifted a brow. "You have the recordings, yes, Your Honour." Philip played the audio of Derek's call, his voice cold, defensive, admitting too much. Then the footage appeared on the monitor. Derek at the bank counter, his face pale when told his access was revoked. Chloe pacing nervously outside. The room fell silent, except for the faint buzz of the speaker. When it ended, the judge turned to Derek, "Mr. Rhodes, do you have anything to say?" Derek stood, his hands trembling slightly. "This is all a misunderstanding. He said she's been under stress, unstable. I was only trying to manage our finances responsibly." The judge stared at him over his glasses. "And your companion, Miss Sanders?" Chloe shifted uncomfortably. "I was just helping with what the judge pressed." She said nothing. I rose to my feet. "Your Honour," I said clearly. I trusted my husband. He brought me papers when I could barely hold a pen, and I signed them, believing they were for insurance while I healed. He planned to erase me, but my son, my 7-year-old, heard what he wasn't supposed to. He warned me, and that warning saved my life. The judge nodded slowly, writing something down, after a pause that felt like a lifetime. He spoke, "Given the evidence, I issue the following: a restraining order against Mr. Rhodes and Miss Sanders, a freeze on all contested assets, and full temporary custody to Mrs. Rhodes. This court recognises attempted fraud and coercion is proven." Derek's head dropped. Chloe covered her face with her hands. Philip placed a hand gently on my shoulder. "It's over," he whispered, but deep down I knew it wasn't quite over yet. Legal victory didn't erase betrayal that would take time and courage to heal. 5 years passed. The storm that once consumed my life had long settled into memory, but its lessons stayed with me every single day. After the court ruling, I sold the house, the one where Derek's lies had lived in every wall. I bought a smaller home on the edge of town, one with sunlight pouring through every window. There was a small garden where Noah could play, and for the first time in years, laughter filled the rooms instead of tension. I left my corporate job too. Instead, I started a consulting business for women, facing financial and legal manipulation. Each story I heard reminded me how easy it was to trust, and how painful it could be when that trust was broken. Helping them became a way to heal myself. Noah grew fast at 12. He was tall, confident, and still had the same thoughtful eyes that had once seen the truth before anyone else could. One afternoon, he came running from school with an envelope in his hand. "Mom," he said, breathless, "they gave me this." It was from the Phoenix Rising Foundation of Full Academic Scholarship. I read the letter twice before I looked at him. "You did it," I whispered. He grinned. "We did it." That night after he fell asleep, I sat alone at my desk. From the bottom drawer, I pulled out an old folded letter, one I had written during those dark days. It was a letter to Noah, just in case things had gone wrong. I had written, "If someday you forget how brave you are, remember that your voice saved me now." I finally handed it to him the next morning. He read it quietly, then hugged me without a word. And in that moment I realized something profound. We had both survived, but more importantly, we had both grown stronger. The years that followed were peaceful. Noah thrived. And I finally learned how to breathe without fear. Life had become ordinary again, but a kind of ordinary I had once prayed for. One afternoon I received a letter in the mail. The handwriting was familiar. "Derek," he wrote that he had lost everything. His job, his family, even Chloe. He said he regretted it all, that he thought of Noah every day, and that he wished he could undo the choices he made. I folded the letter and placed it into the fireplace. The paper curled, turned black, and disappeared into smoke. Forgiveness wasn't something I owed him. Peace, however, was something I owed myself. That evening, as Noah studied at the kitchen table, he looked up and asked Mom, "Are you ever going to tell the world what really happened?" I smiled. Maybe not as my story, but as one that could happen to anyone, because betrayal doesn't always come with shouting. Sometimes it comes with a quiet smile and a signed piece of paper, and sometimes the person who saves you is a child who's simply there. Ella's the truth. Thank you for watching this video. Share your thoughts in the comments. I truly value every story and every voice. Don't forget to subscribe to Tears and Strength and share this video with your friends.